Hi, welcome to my workshop. My name's Darren, and this weird looking contraption is a tenon making jig for a table saw. Now, a table saw tenon jig isn't limited to just doing tenons. If you just cut on one side, of course, you can make a lap joint or anything else you might think of where you just need to cut in the end of the board. I'll show you how I made this in just a minute, but first there's a few things we need to go through because your dimensions are going to need to be different from mine because your table saw fence will probably be a different width and height to mine. So, unless you've got exactly the same table saw. So here's a few things to keep in mind when you're working out the sizing of it. One of the most important things, of course, is to make sure that any portion of your clamp is well above the table saw blade. This actually looks lower than it is because of the angle. If I was to lower the camera a little bit, there we go, you can see I've got a huge gap between the top of the table saw and any part of the clamp, because if the clamp hits the table saw blade, both will break and you could be injured. Something else I highly recommend is doing a very thick foot. I'm calling this part on the back the foot or the shoe, and very thick faceplate. And the reasons for these are as follows. You need a thick shoe because when you're putting the whole thing together, this needs to be able to stand in position nice and square. I originally tried making it out of narrower pieces of plywood like this, and I found that when I assembled the whole thing, these were flexing in ever so slightly, causing more friction on the top, on the bottom, and making it harder to push, and also pushing it out of square, both sides. So no good. So by having these thicker portions, it allows you to make a squarer unit, and also we're going to have to add some dovetail grooves for a clamp. And so with that in mind, we need a nice thick faceplate, so we've got enough depth to do that. So this is why these parts are so thick. I've made a handle for mine. You could go without the handle and hold the jig itself if you want to. Don't hold this portion of the jig, okay? Keep your hands on this side of the blade. Another good reason to have a handle, of course, is that it will keep you on the right side. I also found it far easier to build the whole thing with some shims inside and take any of the last slop or wiggle out with some plastic screws through some tapped holes in the shoe. You could, if you wanted to, omit the shims and try and go tight up against the fence, but then you've got to be accurate, like 0.4 of a millimetre or something. It's so much easier to do this and then just tune it out. If I lift this up and show you, these plastic screws are hardly peeping through. It's ever so slightly. And the great thing about that is, as well, there's only two portions of the back shoe. These two bits that are actually touching the fence. So there's less friction overall. And as they wear, we can adjust them tighter. Like I said, you don't have to do this, but I found it easier and the overall accuracy of the jig much better as a result. Now, I know some people are going to want plans, but there's really no point in me making plans because chances of you needing the same dimensions are going to be pretty slim. To make the handles for the jig, I used one of these pieces of timber like this. This is a leftover from a set of shelves I made. These were curved front supports for the actual shelving. I cut it and basically joined the two pieces together like that with a couple of dowels in here and just rounded everything over. I'm routing in the dovetail slots for the clamps. I'm starting off with a straight bit, which is narrower than our final dovetail bit, just to clear out most of the waste. And then, of course, running the dovetail bit through here to leave us with our final clamping slot. This is the front panel of the jig, and this little fence here will keep our piece of timber square to the table saw and to the jig. You'll notice I've cut a little bit off the bottom here rather than have it go all the way down to the bottom. The idea being any sawdust can go down through here. I've got 2 dovetail slots here for micro jig clamps for clamping our work in place as we're cutting it. So we've got most of our pieces made now. Obviously things have got to be finely adjusted and fitted together, but here we go. This is the first stage of the fitting. Let's call this back piece our foot, for want of a better name. Let's call this front piece our plate. Okay, so between the fence and the foot, I've got 2 thin layers of cardboard. These are old index cards from back when my parents were working. That's how old they would have been. Right, now, on the front behind the plate, I've got a single layer of cardboard. Now that makes a total of 3 of those little pieces of cardboard between the front plate and the back of the front plate and the front of the back foot. Purpose of that is to give us a bit of room for the whole thing to slide so it doesn't bind on the fence when we put it all together. And so that brings us to the next part, putting it all together. So we're going to use a piece of plywood going across like that. I'm going to push down on here to keep that level and mark a line on the back of the plate. There we are, yep. And the reason for that line is we're now going to put a dado in there for this piece of timber. And here I am putting a dado slot in the opposite side of the board so as we can add the lid portion or the top portion of the jig. And the dado adds a little bit of strength that you certainly wouldn't get from a butt joint. I don't recommend a butt joint here. Okay, so I've cut the dado in the back of the plate. We're going to take our little shims here, single piece of cardboard that side. Remember, 2 pieces thick this side. You could use playing cards if you like, or some other sort of shim. I'll let you, I don't mind. I'm nice like that. Okay, now I'm going to pop that in there like so, and align our foot at the back. Now, very importantly, before we stick anything together, is I'm going to make sure this is at 90 degrees to the table. If it's not, there's no point in the whole thing. Just checking for square. Oh, it is good. Good, that is square. Nice. All right, so I'm just going to run a pencil line under there so we get the length of this, or width of it. Now, something I'm very much against is using glue on the table saw, but this is probably the only way I'm going to get this together accurately. It's really important that this stays square. I'll just show you. Around this side, I've got my mag switch featherboard holding everything in place. I've got my square there, so I can keep referencing that, make sure I stay square. Very important. Everything seems to be pretty easy to keep square, mind you, because everything's cut to the right size and shape. But you know, you bump these things and everything changes. So now I'm going to glue our top piece into the dado, and I'm going to be very careful not to drip any glue. So it's going to be really small amounts of glue on the surfaces. We do not want drip out, squeeze out, anything out. We want everything in. All right, that's this piece glued and clamped into our dado. I'm going to leave that for a few hours, just clamped up. Then I'll come back and I will glue this piece to our shoe. I ended up leaving it overnight to dry, so it's had absolutely plenty of time. I'm just going to double check it hasn't moved out of square, which it hasn't. Okay, so now what's going to happen is I'm going to glue the foot to the underside of our top board, our joining board. And again, being super careful not to get any on the table. In fact, initially I'm going to move it off this table saw and glue it off to the side over there, and then move it back to the table saw. Okay, so I've applied glue to the underside of our top piece and the top of our shoe. Just thin layers so I shouldn't get any squeeze out. Okay, so I'm going to put the shoe in place first. Again, make sure my shims are in there. 2 thin cardboard shims on this side. Okay, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, let's check that that's square. Now, I can't really clamp that, so what I'm going to do is put some weights on it. There we go, I've got a couple of old scuba diving weights, which I'm going to put on here. Hold that down. On there, I'll get a couple more. It's still square. Okay, I'm just going to leave that to dry for a few hours. Just to add a bit of extra strength, I'm going to drive some dowels through this top part into the shoe. That way when we're pushing it, all of the stress isn't going to be on just the glue line. We'll have some dowels. Now there's a number of different ways you could mount the handle. I was originally going to mount it just flush and cut this end here off flush. I've considered pushing it right up against there. I've considered having it right over here. They've all got their pros and cons, I think. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend it over slightly, just a little bit, and prop it roughly central, not quite central, through there like that. Glue it in place, and yeah, might pop a couple of screws through for extra strength in a little while. One of the last things I'm doing is putting a couple of threaded holes in the shoe here that face in towards the fence. I'm making these with the largest tap that I've got, which happens to be 12 millimeters. So if you're not familiar with using a tap and die, or a tap in this case, to make thread, you drill a smaller sized hole, the one size down, from the tap you're using, and then do exactly what I'm doing now, and just push it or twist it through the material, through the hole, and then that cuts the thread in. Let's do a quick test fit. I 3D printed some plastic bolts. Plastic because they're not going to scratch up the aluminium fence, you see. If I used a steel bolt or a brass bolt, it would indeed scratch. All right, that's good. One thing I am going to do though, is I'm going to add a locking nut. So once I've got the height correct, I can lock it in place. Then eventually as the plastic wears down, I can readjust it and lock it in place again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to adjust these bolts until they just touch the fence. Just touch the fence lightly and stop. And that removes our wiggle, but leaves us with a nice easy glide. I'm just going to make sure that's correct. Right, and then we tighten these nuts up against the shoe, and that stops the bolts from moving. Right, let's just hold that one in place. While I do this one. Doop. There we go. Right, just double check that hasn't moved. Oh, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Now just to give it a nice coat of oil to preserve it, and take it for a test drive. Now, I'm not going to go into the in-depth makings of a tenon. I'll make another video for that coming up shortly. But I'm just going to go through the quick use of the jig now. So assuming this is the piece that we want to put the tenon on, we put it up against our fence, slide our clamp over, and you notice I've made 2 spots for clamping, just in case I'm doing a big piece of timber and I just want that extra grip. It's nice to have the extra spot. I'm going to make sure it's hard up against the fence. I'm doing that with my fingers, and hard down against the table saw. There we are, tighten that up. No wiggle in that, no wiggle in our jig. I'm going to drop the blade down to our desired height. Just going to do a light pass to start with. There we go. Okay, so it's as simple as that. You put it in, you slide it past the blade on one side, you pull it out, and you do the same on the other side. If you need it thinner, you do more than one pass. But there we go, there's our tenon on our tenon jig. And you can do an open mortise on here as well. But we'll get to that in the next video. All right, that's probably about it. Hopefully that's been of some use. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.